I have had the most fun working with some fabulous women over nearly the past 10 years. At this point, it's been 7 years since I did my very first Warrior Goddess training book club, and that was an in-person book club, and I did a lot of those over the past 7 years, sometimes multiple times a year. And sometimes some of the people attended several book clubs of the Warrior Goddess, so they went through it several times with me. That will be always one of my most favorite experiences. So what I did when I started this journey of bringing my Warrior Goddess book club discussion to YouTube, to a wider audience than what I can see in person, I reached out to some of these amazing women, some of these fabulous warrior goddesses, and asked them if they would feel comfortable coming before the camera with me and discussing one of the lessons. And several of them was like, yes, I'm doing it. I'll do that. There was a few that was like, I don't think I want to do that, but thank you for asking. So it was beautiful to witness the lessons that we did in Warrior Goddess, so that we used our voice to express the yes or the no. And again, using the working with the lessons of the Warrior Goddess, I didn't take anything personally. So what I want to do, let's see, is introduce to you a couple of who's coming in this next lesson. So lesson 4 is ground your being and free your past. I worked with Kyla. It's not Kylie, Kyla. Worked with Kyla on this one. I initially asked her to do a different lesson, and she said, oh, I didn't really have a lot of connection with that one. Can we do another one? So then we chose lesson 4, ground your being and free your past. Kyla came in to my life as well as a teacher for me. She introduced me to some new books, and it has just been an absolute beauty to walk this journey with her. We have since our lessons together, we've done a couple of outside excursions together, doing ecstatic dance once, and so like a lot of funness, and we have the intentions to do more when time allows, when life aligns for it. So ground your being and free your past. This is ground your being and free your past. We've been sitting here just having a little chat and catching up, because it's been a minute since we've had even, a long conversation. And so this has been really good. I love the quote in the very beginning that says, no one can make you feel inferior without your consent. And that's Eleanor Roosevelt. And just like, if you really listen to that message just from that quote, like, that is just a powerful thought of how much power we give away.
Yeah.
In allowing other people to control our emotions, to control our actions.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's where it all came from, where I was like, I was looking for something, because it didn't even have to be somebody. It could have been, I didn't get my mail that I was expecting, or my schedule didn't go to plan, and it would be so simple, and it would take me to the other side.
Oh, flip out.
It just would ruin
Everything.
And that's why I was like, what is wrong with me?
Yes.
I mean, always feeling something. I've always felt that. And so when we were talking before, and we said this quote and how simple that sounds, but when we're giving that consent to someone else. And
yeah. So this lesson is really talking about grounding, and so she starts it off talking about the analogy of a house, and how electricity in a home or a building has to be grounded into the earth to work properly. Right. And just by a simple copper wire. So like the A-type personality that I am, I read this, I had to go out and look at my meter and look at the pole going down and find the copper wire, and was like, wow, like it's really just a bare piece of copper sticking into the earth.
Yep.
That makes your electricity in your home work. Like that's
simple.
That's simple, and without it, it doesn't. Without that grounding, it doesn't work properly.
Right. It says that we are energetic beings first and physical beings second. And so when we need to balance energetically, it is around the lack of proper grounding. When we are ungrounded, we experience surges and crashes of energy, burnout, and dramatic explosions, which was my life for so long. I would say 20 years. I mean, a long time of just highs and lows, crash and burn.
Hit that peak, maybe spiraling, right? Like I can remember people would call me like I was dynamite, because I would just, short fuse, right, blow up.
Like a simple comment of, man, this kitchen is dirty.
Right.
And it would have just, so, yeah. Where's the grounding? And that's where we were talking about, there's a big difference in grounding and balance, because balance is a teeter-totter. I need balance when the grounding is as solid as a tree.
Right, right, with your roots deep down in. Yeah.
Can't be shaken.
Right.
And that means that whatever I'm walking into, I'm taking my grounding. So I am in control
all the time.
And I have the ability to reel myself back in. And I think about that a lot, because, you think about something that happens, like something dramatic and big and bad, and say we got to go to the hospital, but I have to hold my peace. What is it going to do?
Right. For me to overreact, or to, explode or
on
and
anybody.
I don't even want to say even overreact, but to react, period. Because you don't want to come from a place of reaction. You want to come from that place of response, which feels completely, it looks different, but it also feels completely different when you come from that different place.
But I think, and that was the thing, is like, I understand what you're saying, but I still didn't know how to do that. Here it says, when we are grounded in this way, we have faith in our ability to survive in the world. We trust ourselves. We feel safe and held. We are resilient. And that goes back to where not trusting myself.
Yeah.
And then learning through, the training, you have to practice it. It's not like, oh, I'm just confident.
Right.
No. Oh, I can just wear this big, bright yellow skirt. I couldn't even do things like that.
Right.
I didn't give myself consent to wear big hoopy earrings if I felt like it today.
Yes. Yeah.
I was always looking for consent.
I don't remember which teacher I've had, but at one of them that had told us as a class that you have permission. Like if that's what you're needing for anything in life, whatever it is that your desire is, you have permission for that already.
Yeah,
It's
that's
there.
awesome.
Yeah. And you're right. Like it's doing this small, it's this book takes you through practices of letting go, and it's letting go of little things. It's looking through your house and looking for something that you no longer have use for and just releasing it, giving it away, donating it, throw it away maybe, whatever the case may be. But through doing that little practice of a letting go, that begins to make it easier when you have a bigger thing that's needing to be released or let go of, because you're practicing it all the time in those little moments. But that's the same thing here. You are always practicing being grounded, and then that way when life hits, I will use the river as the analogy. You hit a rock, you're grounded. You're going to be okay. You still have your paddle. You're ready.
Yeah.
You're going to be fine. But if you're just like over here, like, oh, look at the tree, and then you hit a rock, like paddles going, you're going this way.
Yeah.
That's like, but like if you're grounded, you're in that flow of life, and then you're like, oh, maybe you see the rock coming now. Right?
Yeah.
Now you're like, oh, and maybe you're like, I'm still going to hit that because I don't have enough time to get away from it, but I know it's coming. Or maybe you don't see it because some of those little rocks are, maybe you don't see it at all. But you're still grounded, and you take that hit a little easier.
Right.
That's
where it says, do not anchor to the specifics that will change. When you anchor your roots to something outside of you, you will never feel completely stable.
Those different identities that we hold. And, and this book is really geared towards women, but if you take the femininity out of it, we as a society, people, we have identities. We have spouse, parent, sibling, child, business owner or employee or property owner or rentee. All of these identities hold tasks that you have to do, and if you get caught up in this is who I am, and then that thing, person, identity, role leaves.
Or story. So it's also the identity and the story.
Yes.
And that's the very next thing of releasing those. So like you said, okay, well, I'm a daughter and I'm a mom and I do this and my days are the same. But that is not who I am. That's
right.
Yeah. And so same thing of when we tell our stories, especially our life story, this is who I am, this is what happened to me, this is and so it says to give yourself compassionate awareness and refrain from judging. And once you do that, you begin to notice the impact that your words have on your relationship with yourself.
Yes.
And for me, that's where it all started. I mean, this is really the start of everything for me. the compassionate awareness and the relationship to myself that I never thought about, I never evaluated. I didn't. It sounded kind of silly. I mean, is it even real?
The first book club group that I had, they laughed at the thought of this, and I was like, for me, this is going to change things like how I talk to myself. So I'm not going to call myself any derogatory names, and therefore I'm going to set that boundary that no one gets to call me a derogatory name. And so maybe I'm not ready to say, be like sweetie and be that gentle with myself, but I'm not going to be like, hey bitch. Right.
Well, I don't even think I was aware of the way I treated myself because that relationship wasn't there. So it doesn't matter what relationship you're talking about. It has to be intentional. You have to put time, effort, work. And so the very first time, and that was the thing, the very first time that I met her and you said, what does she need? And I was like, who is she? Get her out of here. I don't know what she wants. And that was so real. And so that was where I started learning that I was not nice to myself. That was a big thing. I was meaner to myself than anybody could have ever been, and that was in my head. Nobody even knew it. It was in my head and what I was saying to myself because I didn't do dishes last night. And that spiraled into what a disgusting, horrible, and it just went on. And then I hadn't even cleaned the baseboards, and who lives this way?
Yes.
And so then we take it back to the grounding, and that is not who I am. And I have complete control. I can just get up and wash the dishes, and then I don't have to worry about them anymore.
Or not
if I don't feel like that.
If you don't feel like it, right?
Today.
Right. So this happened to me a few years ago when I first started backpacking. And, so I'd come back home from a weekend of hiking and backpacking, and I just drop my gear in the floor. And then the next morning I get up and I'm like, and I don't touch it. And then that evening after work, I'm like, you don't deserve this because you're not taking care of it. And instead of saying, girl, you just hiked 20 something miles, you are tired and you are very deserving. You just will deal with this later.
Right, because you would not have a relationship with someone who was that way. I mean, but then again, that's where I come back to where this all, for me, this was not the natural way of living because I had lived this way for so long that I didn't even know I was living. I didn't even know I was saying those things to myself. I wasn't aware enough to notice that the conflict was coming from me just because you might have said something about my shirt and I was like, did she like it? Did she not? I don't know. And then why does it matter? And so, but that's where I say this little sentence made such a big impact on me because I was like, I don't even know if compassionate awareness was something I even saw. Like, I need to give that to everyone, including myself too. It says the warrior goddess path takes awareness and merges it with action to create inner change. So I've always seen her, my future self, having a coffee alone, reading a book, but I never merged that with action. That was just an idea when it was like, I give my full consent to do something like that because I can. It's coffee and, and it changes you, but you have to practice those things. Cool.
I love that.
Oh, can I say this too? Transformation starts with how we use our words, how we speak our story to ourselves and others. Like body and mind, words are vessels. Each word we choose can hold the vibration of healing, peace, and love, or be brimming with fear, victimization, and judgment. Our words help to nourish or deplete our vessel. That changed my life.
Yeah. It's, coming from the 4 agreements, it's being impeccable with your word, which is also being impeccable with your energy, which means awareness of where you're spending your energy, where it may not be being beneficial to you, where it's costing you but not replenishing you.
Right.
Being aware of, and that could be like, vegetating and Netflixing all weekend.
Right.
And sometimes vegetating and Netflixing all weekend is a good thing. And sometimes it's not a good thing. Like, how is that energy behind it?
Right.
I like here where she talks about not just, again, the energy behind the words that you're using, or the way you use the words. So, here in the South, you can hear someone say, well, bless your heart. And you may think that that's a sweet thing, but we know that that's not the energy behind that saying.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, I never thought about that. Yeah.
Right? When I say bless your heart, you're in my heart. Like, there's a different energy behind that than what is the typical thing we hear and see around here. And so, like, being aware of that, and like how we say our things.
Yeah. So, going back to when I said, this all sounds great, but I don't know how. This is kind of the how for me.
Yes.
This is kind of the how, because when you speak life or death, period. And it's either if you say it silently in your head, or if I say it out loud to you, I am hurting or helping. I'm building or tearing down with every, and vibration, which is a whole nother subject in itself. But when I say I love you, your body will vibrate at a certain frequency. And when I scream at you and tell you that I hate you, it will vibrate at a certain frequency as well.
Yes.
And so when you learn that, and then when you can hold compassionate awareness for yourself and others, then you're vibrating at a different level. Then I'm grounded. And that comes through the spoken, to me, it comes through like a lot of spoken word, or you can say it to yourself, and people say to do that for yourself. And everybody's different, because I don't know what you need. Only you know what you need.
Right.
And I know what I needed. I can't expect anybody else to give it to me. Because I'm in control.
Isn't it beautiful?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh.
I love it.
Yeah.
Then I went to releasing your old stories.
Right.
And that's where it started getting hard. I mean, that's
because that's where judge and victim really comes in as well. So releasing your old stories is about it's rewriting your story. It's also identifying belief systems that you may be carrying from past, and seeing what still resonates, and letting go of the ones that no longer or may have never even resonated with you.
Right.
But you were taught, you know, you're a female, so this is your role in life.
Right.
You know, and so.
And that even goes back to the inner talk.
Yes.
That you could have been saying to yourself when you were 12 years old.
Yeah.
Out of nowhere, you were a kid.
Oh, I know some of the things I was saying to myself, like, because you know, I'm very open about my history of sexual abuse and being raised in Christianity. So I was being taught that how unclean I was, even though those leaders didn't know that I had been abused and that was going on at that time. But I knew what they were teaching me, that through the fact that I was having intercourse, that I was going to go to hell. And so the torment that I was putting myself through as an 8, 9, 10-year-old child from that very conflicting life that I was involved in that I had no control over, that carried with me into my 20s. And before I began like really pulling these layers off from me and saying like, this doesn't sit well. I don't believe this. You know, right? And like just starting to pull that away. And so that's some of that belief system that you know, like that's a big one. There's a lot of small ones. There's, you know, there's small ones to play with. That's a big one. That took a lot of work. To work through. But it could be even like cleaning your plates at a meal. Do you have to clean your plate, or can you just eat until you're full? And you're done.
So that came when I had a child, and I was 38 years old when I had a child, and so now I'm, you know, let's just say, so I'm 41 with a 5-year-old, but I have to think to myself, like, is this a real rule? Is this a real rule, or did somebody make this up, and what is best for our family and what is safe for him? And that's all that matters.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it's something like...
It's wild.
It's wild, but, you know, I saw the analogy of, like, standing on a coffee table. You know, kids don't know that a coffee table is a coffee table. It's just a wooden thing to climb on for them. But once they learn it's a coffee table, and you don't see people just climb on coffee tables. Because we're all told that those are, I don't know. Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay.
It does. So like Don McGill talks about, I believe it's him. He talks about in this, like, it might not be him. So like I'll scratch that part. But there's this story that I heard that's like they're at like a third world country, and the children are just running around. They're running around the edge of like a volcano, let's say, and the person there is like, "Are you not afraid that your child's going to fall in?" And she said, "No. Why would they do that? They know what this is. They know. You know, that's not what."
And when I said I never trusted myself. We're taught at a very young age not to trust
ourselves. Exactly.
Which is
our
design.
Instead of allowing, and that's
we have to practice.
It's been interesting with me for the grandkids of allowing them that freedom to explore their strengths, their curiosity, their
individuality.
You know, I have like the aerial yoga, and they like to play in that, and it is dangerous, right? But I'm going to let them do it, and I'm going to let them fall out, so that they learn how to get back up, and we do it again. But that's also the way their mom and dad are teaching them as well, and it's beautiful, because instead of us going, "Oh no, don't do that, that's not safe, you're going to crack your head," or you know, we're just like, we explain to them what everything is, and then they get to explore,
Right.
like rock climbing.
Yeah. There's so
Right?
many things.
Right.
Yeah. The releasing the story though is, I think I worked on that a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I originally did this book March of 2023. So it's funny that we're circled back March 2025. But I remember that the story that I've told myself of, I have told the same story for so long that there was no other version of it. And for me, I mean, my story, I mean, I guess everybody has a big story. I think everybody's story is important and everybody's story is big. And when my mother has multiple sclerosis. And so I was a victim to that for so long that I was like, my mom was always sick, you know. So when you rephrase it, and that took me a long time. I didn't know how to rephrase it because it was the truth.
Right.
But I do know that when I started this book, I was filled with rage, and rage was the number one word that I could think of, and unbalanced. But now I don't even want to be balanced. I want to be grounded.
Right.
I want to be grounded, and I want to rewrite my story. And in order to rewrite my story, I have to retell my story and use the vibration. Even for you to hear my story, I have a great story, you know, and I was born to her, you know, and it's, I love my life. Doesn't mean I'm always happy, but it means that I will make it and that I will get to the other side. The confidence that I've grown, and I think this was a big book to that, just because it rephrased a lot of things for me in a way that I really could understand. So after we're releasing it, then we take responsibility for it, and that's even harder. Responsibility isn't fun.
Owning your own part in things, right? But again, that comes from awareness. We have to have the awareness. Awareness is the key, which also means we have to slow down.
Yeah, and we have to step back away and see it for what it's a mosaic. There's a lot of pieces that you don't even know about.
Yeah.
You know, and that goes for, well, then the next one, even ancestors. So I didn't really know the deep parts of my parents. They were my parents, and I never knew the deep parts of my grandparents, and definitely not my great-grandparents. And so when you learn that this is all, I don't know what they were dealing with, but I know that my mom was 25 years old with a newborn and a 3-year-old when she found out she had MS.
Okay.
So then you think about, like, she's just like 28 years old now with 2 kids, and now and so they're just young and they're trying to figure it out. But I had to release the one story I had of my life, see it for the mosaic that it was, and to see she has a story, my dad has a story, their parents, and then we take responsibility.
Right. We are the creation, you know, of those, the beings who raised us. You know, what they, because we're sponges as children of what they taught us. My mother, before settling down and having children, was a go-go dancer.
Cool.
And was a wild woman, I'll tell you.
Fun.
And then, you know, my dad was a preacher.
Okay.
And, you know, so from that becomes me.
Yeah.
Right? You know, and so I have that flair of my mom. I have her wild spirit and her fire, and I've not always been appreciative of that, because she also, you know, again, it was hard having a wild woman as a mom. But then knowing her story more now and from this place, there's so much more compassion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It says you are the result of the love of thousands. I think about this. I found out after my mom passed a couple of years ago, doing the ancestral work, because I've really gotten into it, and it's from doing the work through this book that's got me there. I found that my 5th great grandmother on my mother's side was an African slave, and I found where she was wheeled from her first owner to his child, and then from that one to his child, she was to be sold, and the money given to his child. And then at that point, somehow, she met a Scottish man and got married and began having children where I come from. And they settled up in the Skyway region, and I've seen pictures of their children, and they're good people. They helped kind of build the community of Tellico and all of that. And so I'm like, she had to have been loved. And during that time of it was still slavery. So she was on the censuses, she was listed as Caucasian, and so they hid her, and and so I'm like, there's like the good people that from that area didn't come from a home that wasn't full of love. That had to have been love. Right.
So from slavery to a home of love and having children, and that was powerful to find and see, and to know,
and to know that it took so much work.
Yes.
That she worked so hard.
Yeah, like we come from and that's the power of starting to dig into your parents' stories and your grandparents' stories, is because then you hear how powerful and strong they are, and
compassionate
awareness. Yeah.
And that changes. I mean, that changes the way you see things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that is about it for this lesson.
I loved it.
Yeah, this is one of my favorites, and because it is the foundation, the grounding. It is your foundation. Yeah. If you're not grounded, then everything else is off whack.
And when I'm off whacked, because I'm still off whack.
Yeah, it happens.
So when I know now that it's just the grounding, and that I can come back to me at any time.
Yeah. So what do you do to get grounded?
Well, I think there's 2 different types of grounding for me. One, there's in the moment grounding. That's a whole different story. But also the grounding, as I was saying, is for my future self, like continuing to do things like just taking myself out to a coffee, doing this time with you, doing a solo hike by myself that I'm scared to do. I'm not equipped for. I'm not equipped for the things that I'm called to do. And that's the adventure of it all. And that's where the confidence comes from. But it's so fun. That keeps me grounded. I know that, and it gives me confidence, and in the moment, I'm starting to realize that it will pass. That it will pass. I'm so upset right now in the moment, but it will pass. And I go to my, what grounds me is God, and I go there. I've never went there so much, but I need it. So to live a life, we live a life that I can't and don't want to do on my own. is a very humbling place to be.
Yeah. So I have like my daily things, and I take a bath every day and do like a Epsom salt cleansing.
Yeah.
So it's not like my soap and rinse the scum off. It's like an everyday energetic, like,
Yeah. Get the blood moving,
yes,
the lymphatic system moving. Yeah.
and just love myself.
Yeah.
It's that type of bath that I'll do. Even if it's like I've got 15 minutes, I'm gonna run a small puddle.
That's
and
cool.
I'm doing this.
That's
like
good.
Because I have found when I don't, I'm needing it.
Right.
Right.
That was a huge thing. So when I became a full-time caregiver for Mom, that was a huge thing that I could see, and I couldn't understand it or explain it. And sometimes it's still hard to explain that she's, her body doesn't move. And so I would just know that her blood needed to flow.
Yes.
So since then, and once I can see, like you say, when I get out of the shower and I have like I've been using either coconut oil, tallow, or vitamin E. So I do just like kind of rub on myself and rub on my face. And then I started thinking about how many years I would literally take a shower and put my clothes on.
Right.
Never once did I just... And then I'm like, why does my face look like this? And I'm like, oh, it's because I don't move it, and there's no drainage, and because I'm just setting up shop in here. And I would walk around in clothes that I didn't want to wear, that I didn't feel comfortable in. I walk like this, and I was there a lot, just there, wherever there was.
Yeah.
To be aware, to be present, and then to be intentional with it all. Man, it will change your life. It will change your life.
Oh my gosh, it so does. Oh, beautiful. Well, thank you for joining us today.
Yeah.
And hey, I look forward. I plan to do the Untethered Soul in a bit. Maybe we'll chat about it too.
Yeah, that's a good one too.
Yeah. So thank you for joining us, and we hope to see you.